Hey guys, the other day I brought you a combo tutorial video on the Danger Dark World FTK, and today I wanted to go ahead and do a deck profile on another Danger Dark World deck. The thing to note about this is that this is not the warrior version of the Dark World FTK. This is just the one that got second place at YCS Niagara Falls. This is very similar to that. All I did is looked at the coverage and looked at what cards he used and went from there. So without further ado, let's get right into it. First card is going to be Cannon Soldier. This gives you your FTK. Not too much to say about that. Next is going to be 3 Brow. Brow is great with all the danger cards. Also, thing to note, being a fiend, you don't really use your normal summon a whole lot in this deck, and so sometimes you can just normal summon him and then tutor something out of the deck with Summon Sorceress. That thing is usually Snow. Snow is great. Thing about Snow is that Snow can actually search Snow, which comes up a lot in this deck. And there's 2 Grapha. Grapha, of all the Dark Worlds, is the worst. You generally don't want to see it in your hand. You really want to be pitching it off of Curious or one of your other cards. Next, we're going to get into the actual Danger monsters. 3 Danger Bigfoot, 3 of him even in a first turn deck just because you want to see all of your danger monsters. Next, 3 Danger Nessie. Nessie searches everything, also level 7, one of the better cards in the deck. And speaking of level 7, that is Danger Dogman. I hate this card. I wish it wasn't a thing, but unfortunately you have to run it because it is also level 7, can be special summoned with Jackalope in combination with Nessie and makes you your Tomahawk. So you do gotta run it. I think some people are playing 2 Dogman. I'm maxing out on it just so that you can see it. If you draw 2, you have a better chance of special summoning it. Next, 3 Danger Mothman. Generally a great card. It's normal summonable. 1800 attack is okay, and I discounted it before. I did not really like it, but it's actually pretty decent. Next, 3 Chupacabra. A lot of decks that aren't focused on the FTK or the big combos are running 1 or 2 of these, and some of them don't even run Chupacabra. In this particular deck, you're running so many dangers that you actually don't mind if you see it. Next, 3 Danger Jackalope. This is another tutor card, part of the Danger engine in every other deck that plays dangers. Then 3 Danger Snake. This card is fantastic and my favorite card in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now. I mean, just look at him. Anyway, next we're going to get on to the spells. This deck is all monsters and spells. So first, 3 Beginning of the End. This card is actually insane. It's really easy to get 7 darks into the graveyard. And you're running a plethora of dark link monsters, which makes it that much easier. You don't really care if your danger monsters are banished because generally when you get their effect off, you are not going to be using them further. So this card is fantastic. It's a draw 3, so better than a Pot of Greed. Next, Allure of Darkness. You want to turbo through everything. If you already use the danger monster's effect, you can banish it. You don't really feel too bad by doing that. Card Destruction, one of the better cards in the deck. Pretty self-explanatory in all the feature matches. Whenever the danger player drew it, he pretty much won. So it's also a fantastic Ash target for the opponent. Generally just a really, really good card in this deck. But the reason it was actually brought off the list, I bet. So Soul Charge, pretty self-explanatory, amazing card. Monster Reborn, also great. Sometimes if you draw Monster Reborn, you can send your Cannon Soldier to grave and don't have to worry about adding it back with Firewall later in the combo. You could just add back your Dark World monster and go from there. Upstart Goblin to run a 39-card deck. I'm sure this card could be something else, but I personally have an affinity towards it, and yeah, I'm going to run it if you let me. So that is the main deck. It's a 40-card deck. One thing I really like about it, just gigantic monster count, and all the monsters draw stuff. And something to note is that the deck itself, like I did a combo video the other day with Armageddonite and a monster. This deck in order to, it can FTK, and it FTKs pretty often. The thing about it is that there's no particular combo. I mean, it says draw your hand and just go off. So next, this is the extra deck. Could probably be work tokens because you play Tomahawk, Fireball Dragon, probably the most fair card in the game right now. I don't understand why people don't like it. Definitely isn't degenerate whatsoever, and I actually think it should come back to 3 so that I can play Infernities again. Gumblar Dragon, this is your backup plan. If they do something to your firewall, you can go right into this and usually take a bunch of cards out of their hand. It's great when your opponent goes into Gumblar too, because they have no idea what's going to happen in game 1. Curious, this card is actually really good in this deck. All of the dangers are dark, and all of them have different types, and so it's super easy to go into Curious in this deck. And this is generally how you're going to be getting Cannon Soldier into the graveyard, or the combo piece that you need if you do wind up drawing him. So next, Unicorn, general or regular nightmare stuff really helps, especially bounce back Firewall Dragon if you use his add effect. Trigate Wizard, kind of a backup plan if you don't open the FTK. I drew throughout testing today. I tested for about 5 hours, and a few of the hands that I drew, I couldn't go into the FTK, so I just used a Tri-Link Trigate with Cerberus and Phoenix on both sides. Summon Sorceress. This deck is not as reliant on Summon Sorceress as the Warrior Link deck. This deck is viable in regions that do not have Summon Sorceress. You don't necessarily need this in order to do the FTK. In fact, most of the time when I do the FTK, I don't need it. I'm usually going into Curious, because Curious is the card in this deck that puts Cannon Soldier into the graveyard. Cerberus, great card, also protects you from the opponent's ogres. Cerberus, not Cerebus. Phoenix, the other good nightmare monster. Underclock Taker, thing to note is that this is a dark, which really helps with your beginning of the ends. Proxy Dragon, just a great generic link 2 with side arrows. Space Insulator, another great generic link 2, is dark and has great arrows pointing down. Link Spider, so that when you go into Tomahawk, you can go Link Spider, Space Insulator into your Summon Sorceress. If you are not playing Summon Sorceress, then it could the Space Insulator doesn't necessarily have to be Space Insulator. It could be any other generic link too. Mermaid, I don't really go into Mermaid that often, but you do like it to get that special summon from Firewall Dragon. If you use Firewall Dragon to add back a Cannon Soldier, if you have it linked with another Nightmare monster, let's say a Cerberus, which is what I usually do to protect the Firewall, you can use Cerberus to go into Mermaid and then get that special summon. Tomahawk, super busted and a fantastic card in this deck. Abyss Dweller, the backup plan. Forget his name, but when he was using this in his Danger Dark World at Niagara Falls, and I like it. It's kind of a okay backup plan. I personally, if I were to choose a Link monster that I was going to have to go into on turn 1 and sit on, I would go with Baguska. I'm thinking about doing that, but I've got to do some reps with real people. I've been solitaring this deck for hours today, and this is what I've come up with. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Let me know what you would modify to this deck. This is not a perfect deck by any means, and if you are playing something very similar, let me know, and we could discuss that. Thank you very much. Bye.